we have essentially one news item to talk about, but it's shockingly packed as a news item because of all of the descriptions that I'm going to have to tell you about. So, DC are doing this weird thing. They're doing this weird thing where they're letting the audience essentially vote in a tournament-style bracket for...
Yes, despite DC's insistence of calling it a round robin, for obvious reasons, it is not a round robin.
No, it's not a round robin, no. I'll be honest, I didn't even realize that's what we're calling it yet until you said that. But because I just saw the image and said that looks like a normal tournament. A normal, eliminator tournament.
That's because that's what it is.
Yes. So, yeah, I'll just read the article here a little bit just to get a bit more information in this. So, crowdsourcing the development of new comic book series, potential new series include a bunch of things. All of them have like solicit pitches, so I'm going to read all those in a minute. So, making the announcement just under the wire to qualify as March Madness. So I guess they did this right before the end of March, technically.
March 31st is when they put this up.
Yeah. So readers are going to participate in polls on the DC Universe Infinite platform. So you can't do this on Twitter. This is you have to be on DC Universe Infinite to vote on this.
Which is strange because they are running these polls on Twitter as well.
They are. Are they counting the votes though?
I don't know.
That's weird. I mean,
because I voted for them on Twitter.
It says DC It says DC Universe Infinite. DC Infinite. I'm just gonna call it DC Infinite. It's a mouthful to say the whole thing. DC Infinite's platform here, and when I first saw the tweet go out earlier in the week, that's what I saw too. So I mean, even though it sounds easy enough to just do,
they did just do one of these on DC Infinite to name the dog in Nightwing.
Okay.
I feel sorry for the poor letterer who had to do different drafts or not know what they were using until quite late on, I guess, in the scripts.
Actually, I mean, surely if let's say the comic just has one bubble where they name the dog finally, all they have to do is change one word.
Oh, sure, but if it's referred to multiple times.
Yeah, but I think if they know they're doing this vote, they'll be wise and not overuse the name in the first issue it's going to be used in.
I believe Haley won for the poll for that. It was like, I think it was like Haley, Hope, and there was a couple of other things that were there.
That's okay, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm not super pumped about it, but not that I cared too much either. So yeah, they're breaking this down. So round 1 is March 31st through the 7th of April. So right now, basically, go and vote if you want to. And then basically, it basically just starts right up afterwards. And then 8th through 15th is round 2. And then there's a gap. And then on the 5th of May through the 13th of May, 13th of May is a very important day. But that's round 3, and then round 4 is the 20th of May through 27th. So there's not actually a gap between round 1 and 2. Round 2 starts right after round 1, but then there's some gaps in between the other rounds afterwards. So, yeah, I'm just going to read you. So there's 6.
Just before you get on to the actual descriptions, I just want to talk about this as a whole, like an idea. I think I kind of hate it. Like, I get why they're doing. I get we get to be involved. There's all these pitches. It's cool, but this is kind of their job, and I feel I feel awful for any of the creators who are involved in these, who have pitched these projects to DC, and then it's down to basically a Twitter poll as to whether or not they get a job. That's miserable.
It's a marketing gimmick. I have no idea what the behind-the-scenes steps it took to get to this choice. I don't know if this is 16 pitches that they didn't really know what to do with because they were all just kind of sitting there at the bottom of a bucket and thought, you know what, let's just do a vote and we'll do one of them, right? Otherwise, none of them would be happening. If that's the case, it's like, well, I mean, it's something fun to do with them, at least. If it is a case of they made people pitch things for the purpose of doing a tournament, I mean, on the one hand, it's better in the sense that all the creators pitching things know that there's only a 1 in 16 chance, potentially, of the book actually happening. Is that better or worse odds than normal? I don't know. But
no, I get... The cynical part of me, though, is that they received a bunch of pitches recently for Infinite Frontier. Creators are like, here, I got an idea.
That's very possible.
And then they've gone, oh, this feels like a lot of work to try and whittle these down to how many we can actually publish. Let's just leave it up to the public. And that's kind of what it feels like in a lot of ways.
I think that's almost too cynical.
It might well be.
Of a way to think about it, because I don't necessarily think that they're looking to have a few easier days at work by not having to decide what they're publishing. That sounds really weird to me. I feel like this is more. I mean, it could just be a bunch of leftover pitches that people did for Infinite Frontier. I can see that. I mean, the timing, especially, that could totally be what these all are. But it's one of these things, though, where I get the feeling it's either this is what's happening to do with a bunch of pitches that they weren't going to do anything with. So effectively, one will happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Would be my guess.
Given what some of them are, I'm not so sure, but we'll get through that. Worth noting, they're not telling us any of the creative teams in the first round. They're not telling us them until round 2.
Which is funny because I would vote almost entirely. But well, actually, do you know what that makes me think? It makes me think that some of the creators have got two of these will be the same person.
Quite possibly. I think there's at the very least one project that I would put money on who I know is writing that book. And we'll get to that just based off of context.
Sure. So I don't like you hate it. I wouldn't say I hate it. I would say I'm wildly indifferent to this. Which is I don't really care about stuff like this where there's interaction, where they want us to vote and be a part of the process. I am not going to. Maybe once the creatives are announced, and I actually have an opinion of like, wait, no, I actually want to read this book now. But right now, I could not give a shit about voting for this.
It just, I mean, I did because, I did on Twitter. We'll do the DC Infinite version as well if that's the one that counts. Because some of them sound pretty interesting. Not all of them, but some of them for sure.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't know. It just feels like you're a publisher. Do your job. And this, it feels like a really like it's gonna backfire. Like in a lot of ways, like they'll. I don't see any way that only one of these gets published. I think at least a good handful of them, and they're just trying to gauge interest. I don't think it'll have the best reception.
I honestly think your view of this is wrong, even though I'm still negative on it. I think you're a publisher, do your job, and that's not what this is. This is not a way for them not to do their job. This is a marketing gimmick. I'm going to be cynical about this, but I'm not going to be cynical about it in the same way that you are. I think this is just purely a marketing gimmick to try and drum up interest in a bunch of things and whatever. I don't think this has anything to do with them trying to make their lives easier.
I agree that it's also a marketing gimmick for sure. I think it's going to backfire. Like if you on the Twitter post for the actual the thread with all of these in, every reaction was just kind of like what mine is. Like, what the hell are you doing? This is just terrible. I think they have misjudged the tone of this pretty badly for most people.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a case of, you know, maybe the winner gets it ongoing.
Especially as there's one of the books in here where like it's okay, this is a clear book for representation and diversity, and you're pitching it against books that clearly DC fans are going to vote for, and it's like and it feels like we're going, well, you didn't want the diverse book, you voted against it. There's bits like that where this just feels like a mistake.
I was halfway through a sentence and then I was rudely interrupted. To finish the thought I was having, which was not even that important a thought, but I was just saying that maybe they'll do a thing where the winner gets like an ongoing, and like the quarterfinalists will all get minis or something silly like that.
It's possible. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I am very indifferent to when companies decide to try and do things like this. I'm not really that interested in it. It doesn't really matter what the medium is. I'm not a big interaction type of fan. I'm just not. And I realize the irony of that because a lot of what we do here is me trying to convince people who listen to this podcast to interact with us more. And I appreciate that I'm not one of those people, and I never have been. So I understand why some people just listen to the show every week and they don't talk to us ever. They never tweet at us. They never do anything.Maybe they hit like on YouTube or something, which is kind of anonymous and no one ever knows that you're the one who's done it. Because I get it. I'm kind of that person in a lot of ways. I'm not a reach out to people's thing. Not that this is reaching out in a big way like that, but this is kind of just an extension of that where I'm just not like a big interactive thing where I'm Like, you know, I think, especially since there's like 16 pitches and only one, in theory, now admittedly I agree they'll probably go back in this later, but in theory as it's pitched, only one of them will actually get to exist. I think if it was more a case of, oh, I don't know, let's say instead of an eliminator tournament, it was like, like everything will vote, and then whatever the top 5, like scoring pitches will all get made, right? And that's a bit easier to swallow, maybe, because it's like, oh, there's a nice batch of books happening now. It's not just 1 in 15 losers or something. But that said, though, I don't feel strongly about this at all. So I can't even. Obviously, you come in here with the I hate this and I want to rant about it, and I'm basically disputing for the sake of A, devil's advocate, but B, just so there's conversation.
But your job.
But ultimately, I'm wildly indifferent to this existing.
Let's see if you're wildly indifferent to the books themselves.
We'll find out. I've not read these in advance. I'm going to. I knew these existed, these descriptions, and I intentionally did not read them, so that I could just react on the show. So, bracket 1. Green Lantern's Underworld on Fire. Okay. A deadly outfit of space outlaws are raising the intergalactic underworld sector by sector under the command of a disruptive new kingpin, in search of an ancient payday worth becoming the target of every power player in the galaxy, including Sinestro. Green Lantern's Kyle Rayner and Kilowog are put on the case, but will Kyle be able to do this one by the book when he finds out who's behind it all? So right away we have a Kyle Rayner Kilowog book, which means, okay, this should win. Like, that's just fact right away. We're 1 entry in.
I want to give you half a point there. I mean, Kilowog book? Oof, I'm there.
And Sinestro, to be fair. Sinestro's involved.
That's true, yeah. Like 2 out of 3.
3 out of 3, I think you'll find. In fact, I'm going to say 4 out of 3 because the lack of Guy Gardner gets a point. So 4 out of 3.
He's the one behind it all.
Oh, it better not be. It better not be. I mean, it's fine. I think what gets me about this is that it kind of. I mean, I suppose a lot of miniseries do kind of end up sounding like this unless they're wildly different. But this to me sounds like an arc that could just be in an ongoing Green Lantern book. It doesn't necessarily need to be a thing on its own.
I think, like you say, that is true for any mini that falls under characters that have ongoings as well.
Yeah, or just anything that's in continuity. Like, and obviously not everything. Like, because Kyle and Kilowog aren't necessarily in an ongoing book right now, but they've been in ongoing books before, so we know what it feels like to have an ongoing book.
It would absolutely fit in a Green Lantern's book, but to the same extent that Tom Taylor's upcoming Batman book could have just. Theoretically, it could have been an arc in Batman, and you wouldn't have questioned it.
Not true. True. I mean, the reason for that, I suppose, at that point is just because, there's a run going on, and we're not going to interrupt the run to give Tom Taylor an arc, so...
Right, and to be fair, there is a Green Lantern book starting, like, next week.
That is... Yes, but we have said many a time there is room for more than one Green Lantern book.
Yes, there is.
I guess what I'm saying, the point I'm really trying to make here is that it doesn't sound like a special idea that requires a special individual book that will sell, hardcovers in the future. It sounds like a run-of-the-mill Green Lantern plot that would be in an ongoing, that's fine as part of an ongoing, but isn't...
I agree. It doesn't sound like a particularly special mini or anything like that.
That said, though, it's up against Etta Candy, Holiday Hero Incorporated. I mean, I don't know what this is going to be before I read it.
I feel bad for this book already.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like because Kyle Rayner has fans, right? I mean, I know Connor and Matt like to shit on him, but Kyle Rayner does have fans, of course do Sinestro and Kilowog. In fact, just Green Lantern as an idea has a pretty big fan base, and you're putting Etta Candy on our own thing up against that. I feel like this is destined to lose, but here's a description. On summer break from Holiday College, an accident grants Etta Candy her very... Wait, so this is young Etta Candy, I assume then?
I don't know, based off of the rest of it.
Okay. From Holiday College, an accident grants Etta Candy her very own superpowers, taking on the new superhero mantle of Candy Stripe. Okay, that's a good name. Has that been used before? Is that a new thing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it.
Etta joins forces with Wonder Woman and Amanda Waller, and her Beta Lambda sorority sisters. That sounds like a continuity nonsense thing.
It does, yeah.
That sounds like a bunch of college-age versions of all these characters. And clearly the sorority thing I have never heard of because I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Sisters also, I decided because it's presumably based off, Greek letters, beta lambda, surely. But whatever. I know you read it right because they spelt it that way.
Yeah, it's put it with 2 E's.
They did, yes. I'm not disputing your
let me make this very clear. If I see the word BETA, I say beta. That's not
correct. Well,
right.
Yeah.
Not beta, like some people do, and they're incorrect. Anyway, so it's all girls agency sworn to protect and assist anyone in need. Woo woo, as the end of the description reads.
In all caps, put the correct emphasis in.
See, I see that. I just want to do Ric Flair woos. Okay.
They're too long.
How do you know what a Ric Flair woo is?
Because I'm on the internet.
Woo!
Yeah, that's too many O's.
Too many O's. Oh dear. I suppose as we go here, which one of these wins for you? Is a thing we can do.
Yeah, sure. I mean, despite my reluctance to vote for anything involving Kyle Rayner, it kind of has to be the Green Lantern book here, doesn't it? Although I imagine I would have fun with the Eta book as well if once it existed.
I think that Eta book, if I saw a writer for it, it would maybe change my mind completely. Because a certain name attached to that book would work well for me. However, based on just the premise alone, I want a Green Lantern adventure with these characters that I know.
Yeah. The Eta book sounds like a wonderful, one of the, an all ages graphic novel, though.
Oh, I can see that. All right, bracket number 2. The Brave and the Bug, Crisis on Infinite Ambush. You know what? It's a great title. I'll give it, before I read anything else, that's a good title.
Yep.
Ambush Bug must team up with some of DC's greatest heroes to survive an attack by revenge-seeking ambush bugs from across the multiverse, who never got to exist thanks to AB's refusal to be rebooted.
This sounds fun.
It sounds better than I thought it was going to. And even though it had a good title, I still wasn't expecting to be into it. But it sounds okay, actually.
Yeah.
That's going up against Zatanna and the King of Nightmares.
Come on.
Something is terribly wrong with Zatanna's powers, but before she can heal herself, she is forced to confront her worst fears in a strange new spiritual realm, ruled by the terrifying otherworldly foe known as the King of Nightmares. That more than any, I need creative teams on both of these. I need to know who's writing these two.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I actually think this Zatanna book might be Rambi. Based on the fact that so obviously we've only had like one 10-page half an issue of his Justice League Dark in the current stuff.
After the excellent issue by Bendis, yes.
Sure, whatever. Yeah, not even getting into that. It's not what we're here for. But that was definitely teasing stuff being wrong with Zatanna's powers, and that there might be something coming up with that. So that this already feels like this would fit really nicely into what Ramvi's doing there, an expansion upon that. So again, I could be wrong. He could be just, someone else could be just running with it. That's what he said. But it wouldn't shock me if this was a Ramvi book.
The funny thing is I'm loving Ramvi right now, but based on you saying that, I would pick the other one because I'm not reading Justice League Dark, and I'm not super.
That's understandable.
So
I mean, maybe it'll stand on its own as its own little kind of horror Zatanna mini, which it very well could do based on that description.
Yes, but on the little information we have, I'd have to go with the Crisis on Infinite Ambush.
I mean, I wouldn't be me if I didn't vote for Zatanna. So
we can dream, though.
You can dream all you want. I can dream of this book winning.
We'll see. Bracket number 3. Lobo, Animal Man, Scorched Earth. How have I ever been handed something that is equally good and bad at the same time? What the hell?
I'm gonna tell you right now. This is the weakest bracket.
Okay, well, let me read this description. Lobo, the name makes entire alien races collectively wet themselves with fear. The main man is proudly hyper-violent, arrogant, loud, stubborn, impatient, and ill-tempered. I was trying to think of someone else to joke about and say that sounds like so-and-so, but Ultimately, the hyper-violent part just kind of made it not as funny.
I mean, mostly Matt.
The best thing about him is that after he completes his contract, he leaves until now. So Animal Man's in the title. This is a dual build book that equalizes Lobo and Animal Man in the name. However, Animal Man is not mentioned.
Does not get a single mention in that pitch.
Which says to me that he might not show up until the last page of issue 1 of whatever this book is. But then he'll be an equal part from that point on. Would be my guess.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. So as much as I want more Animal Man content, it's hard to get behind this based on this, and based on the fact as well that Lobo is, he's always Lobo.
And also you've got like a magnificent Animal Man run that you're only just scratching the surface of to keep you going for a little while yet.
The other book that's up against is Son of the Creeper. An awkward teenager's life is turned upside down when he inherits his dad's chaotic powers. With his family in danger, Kieran Miller must save a father he doesn't know from the monster he's become. I mean, this bracket just screams it exists because there has to be something that can easily be beat in the next round.
It does, doesn't it?
This is so the next round has an easy victory for something else.
Because I'm assuming this is up against
bracket
winner
4,
of bracket 4,
which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
I feel like this is null and void right away. This bracket, neither of these are winning. I'm willing to call it.
Yeah,
I'm willing to call it.
I'm okay with that.
So. Yes, but well, if you're picking though, like which one are you taking?
Probably Lobo Animal Man. There's at least a little bit of something there, I guess. I mean, I like the Creeper well enough when he appears, but I've never wanted to have a story exploring his son, and getting those powers. It's never been something I've ever thought of.
All right. I think I just go for Lobo Animal Man just because of Animal Man, but it's based on that and nothing else essentially from that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Bracket 4, Justice League Queer. JLQ is actually a pretty cool acronym if they ever.
Yeah, and that is what they're actually using in the bracket.
If they wanted to stick with that, like an all LGBT version of the Justice League, call it JLQ. That's pretty cool. JL Cool.
What the hell was that supposed to be?
8 young queer heroes investigate a series of monstrous manifestations around the world and discover that something much more terrifying is coming. Very vague, but sure.
It is very vague, and this is where I feel bad for this book because the odds of it winning overall are pretty slim. Let's be honest, against some of the heavily DC titles that are here. Well,
it's up against Robins, which just from the title alone feels like it would go quite far. Here's the description. In the Bloodhaven apartment of Dick Grayson, a group of young people meets. I think that's a mistake there.
A group of young people meets for coffee.
A group of young people meet for coffee. I guess. I don't know. I would have had without the S, but whatever.
I think you can do it either way.
Meet for coffee, donuts, and... What?
Fetching? I don't know what that is either. Shall I Google it?
Some weird American thing that we don't know about? Fetching? I assume that's a silent K. I mean...
Fetch.
What is it?
It's a Yiddish word. It means to complain.
Oh, okay.
So they're complaining, basically.
Alright, okay. Alright. The only thing they have in common, all were once Kid Wonder's sidekicks to Batman. I mean, this is the thing. You tell me the pitch for this book is that all the ex-Robins essentially hang out and like complain about Batman. I actually kind of like the sound of that book.
Yeah.
So
also, I feel like this is a slightly different pitch to the one I read on the Twitter thing, because that mentioned them being hunted.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I mean, I assume the plot has to go somewhere.
Yeah, but because I just assumed this article just copy and pasted the just the text. No. So the other one actually says a small group meets at Dick Grayson's apartment, but what's brought them here isn't that they're all former psychics to Batman. It's that they're being hunted by one claiming to be the first.
Okay. I'm still intrigued by that.
Yeah.
This is frustrating. I mean, I think out of these two, unfortunately, just based on what I already care about, I'd have to pick the Robbins book. I feel kind of bad for doing it though.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the same. Like as a DC fan, it's like, yeah, that Robin sounds exactly what a lot of DC fans would love.
I think for fun at the end of this, when I'm done reading them all out, I want to go back and like say we can pick 5 each of what we'd greenlight. If we were given these 16, what 5 would we greenlight? Because I think that's more interesting than But we'll pick obviously out the matches as we go. So that's Justice League Queer and Robbins. Bracket 5, Pause Off the Justice League. Okay. When the Justice League disappears, Jimmy Olsen and the Super Pets must save the world from certain doom by posing as the missing League. I feel like this is pandering to certain people here.
I feel like this would be so much fun.
I mean, I can already see Matt Fraction in the corner.
I was just going to say, if you got like Matt Fraction writing this book, oh, yes.
Alternatively, it's up against Jesse Quick, Control. When Jesse Quick uses her speed to access an alien artifact from a long-dead civilization, she finds herself imbued with the ability to harness and control the elements around her as her former super speed is drained. But when the power begins to corrupt Jessie, she must decide to give up those gifts or risk becoming quite literally her own worst enemy. That's conflicting, that one, because I think on the one hand, the idea of a Jesse Quick mini sounds really good, because Jesse Quick, as far as like a spotlight goes, not had much of it in a long ass time.
Nope.
So, but on the other hand, I don't know if the premise that they've given me here sounds like what I want from a Jesse Quick.
It's not super compelling, is it?
No. The sad thing is, though, is I look at these two things, like, I don't know if it's a clear-cut victory for either one. I think on the one hand, Jimmy Olsen and the Super Pets are quite popular, so that might get them the victory. On the other hand, though, long-time Flash fans who really like Jesse Quick might propel this to victory because they care about Jesse Quick. This one's
so look at like where they are at the minute.
Sure.
And this is just based on the Twitter polls. I'll just recap real quickly. The Green Lantern's book is winning at 73.9% of the vote on there.
That's surprising.
Zatanna is winning at 78.7% against Brave and the Bug.
That's a shame, but also not surprising.
Lobo Animal Man is winning at 63%, so it's the closest so far.
That's because no one knows what to pick.
Interesting how close it is. Robbins is winning, but only at 55%.
I'm not surprised by that. I think Robbins will still win, but I completely expect that the queer comic community would be
rallying around this.
Yeah, they're going to show up in force, and it may not be enough, but I'm not surprised it's actually putting up enough of a fight. I'm not surprised.
And on this one, Jesse Quick is winning currently at 58.8%. And
all right, so
by the way, like these are still like most of them are at about 18,000 votes, up to maybe 20,000. It is notable that the JLQ one is in the 33,000 votes on Twitter so far, like noticeably higher than all the others.
So yeah, it just backs up what we just said about the community kind of going in on it. Yeah, so this one's tough for me. I think if you just told me the titles, I'd be more for the Jesse Quick book, but the premises, I think, make me lean towards the Pause Off the Justice League book more.
I don't think it's any surprise that for me, that's an easy win for Pause Off the Justice League, right?
Yeah. I'm not feeling like super hyped about it though. So I mean, you know.
I am. If it's someone like Matt Fraction on that book,
I just mean I'm not super hyped about the decision, is what I mean.
Okay,
not the book. I don't feel strongly about it because there's something to like and but potentially not like in both. Bracket 6, we got Blue Beetle Graduation Day. I assume this is Jaime Reyes. It is. Trapped between heroics and his future, Jaime Reyes is directionless. When the Reach interrupt Jaime's high school graduation, things only get worse. Starfire becomes a new mentor to Blue Beetle. Well, so Connor's voting for this one. But it is Jaime or the Scarab that's really in the driver's seat. And why hasn't Jaime applied to any colleges? So that just sounds like a natural follow up to all of his ongoings. Where we're going to tell the story of him finishing high school because it's just a natural thing to do.
It feels like the next thing to do with Jaime, right? Why wouldn't you do that story at some point?
So that just makes sense. It was like a natural follow up. It wouldn't even surprise me if I'm forgetting the name now, but the writer who worked on all those ongoings, Giffen, it wouldn't surprise me if Giffen was the one that was lined up for that.
Possible.
That's going up against Night Runner, Love in Paris. all of Paris is obsessed with intoxicating virtual songstress whose holographic stage show are lighting up the city of love. But when the Vocaloid, I hate that, when the Vocaloid spies start to disappear, Night Runner must track down the infamous developer behind the eerily realistic celebrity AI.
Do you know who Night Runner is? Do you remember who Night Runner is?
I actually don't. Who is Night Runner?
I believe, could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure he's the French Batman from Batman Inc. stuff.
Oh, Blue Beetle. I'm picking Blue Beetle.
I mean, is it? Yeah. I mean, I'm partial to Blue Beetle anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Then you tell me there's Starfire is in this book as well. Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
And for the record, people agree with us at the minute with Blue Beetle winning at 70.2%, which I don't think is a surprise, given I doubt many people know who Night Runner is off the top of their heads.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So, there you go. Bracket 7, Swamp Thing, A House of Secrets. Sounds promising just from the title. When love will not die, the dead must rise from the grave to kill it. Louisiana, 1905. Caught in an eternal triangle of love and living death, the monstrous Alex Olson, his widow Linda, and his undead rival Damien, vie for the control of the cursed swamp where life, death, and past and the future spiral into one never-ending nightmare. So clearly that's not obviously Alec Holland or any of the current Swamp Things that we know.
No, like I said, it's set in 1905. Yeah. This kind of reminds me of one part, the Lemire question book, another part like the Dead Man prestige mini we had a few years ago.
That was really good, yeah, the Mysteries in the House of Love or whatever it was called.
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of sitting alongside those books in terms of what it's going for, this type of book it'll be. I could be completely wrong. I'm going off very little here.
I mean, I don't expect it's Lemire, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was Lemire.
We know Lemire has some Black Label books coming up.
Yeah, but you don't put Lemire books in a vote. You just give Lemire the books.
You do if you're going to just greenlight them, a bunch of them anyway.
Yeah. So that sounds interesting. Obviously, it's not a lot to go on what these new characters are, but the idea of a Swamp Thing story in the South in 1905 is a little intriguing, I think, from a setting perspective. That's going up against Suicide Squad 7. And before I read this, I'm just going to say, based on the title, I'm expecting a Seven Samurai-esque plot to this, so I might be disappointed when I read this. Harley Quinn leads a team of criminals, a millionaire adventurer, a stage magician, a sugar-obsessed serial killer, a delusional former superhero, a drunk assassin, a mutant metahuman, and a child who becomes a monster, to stop the centuries-old Church of Blood from trying to destroy all of humankind.
Do you know what that was describing?
Do I recognize all the names that she's...
Just in general, at least, is it ringing bells?
Church of... I mean, is that Brother Blood is talking about?
Church of Blood is Brother Blood, yeah. But in general, the rest, that's the Seven Soldiers.
Oh, that's what they're describing. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a Suicide Squad Seven Soldiers crossover, essentially.
Well, that makes sense given the title. I mean, I'm not that familiar with Seven Soldiers, so I would never. If anything, if I had tried to go back and work out who each of these descriptions were, I'd have maybe applied. I don't know. I don't know who I'd have said for sugar obsessed serial killer. Mutant metahuman, I might have went with like Ragdoll or something. Like, I don't know.
Sure. Stage musician, you probably go Zatara.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, on Suicide Squad? Then again, it's not like I can think of any villains that fit that description, admittedly.
Yeah.
These two, I have to go Swamp Thing.
I get the appeal. It's probably the superior book overall. Again, assuming the creative teams are on par here. But I have a feeling that Suicide Squad 7 will just scratch an itch that I'll just enjoy. So I'm going to go with that.
What's the Twitter poll at?
Twitter poll is, neck and neck. Suicide Squad 7 is winning, but it's at 50.2%.
Come on, Swamp, I'm going to go for it.
And that's with coming up on 19,000 votes. Still 3 days left on this Twitter poll, and again, I don't know how representative these polls are of the DC Infinite polls, but pretty close.
Yeah, because as of right now, the implication is that only the DC Infinite ones are the ones that count. and Twitter's just a gauge.
Yeah, I'm gonna just log on to DC Infinite and see if I can see polls on there. I don't know how they're doing it, if they show the results.
Yeah, a part of me thinks they might not be showing the results live, but we'll see. And then bracket number 8, the last 2 books here. Asteria, The Last Amazon. And Immortal oh, sorry?
Sorry, I just hiccuped.
All right. Well, typical Connor. An immortal Amazonian champion returns to man's world to discover her and the Amazon sacrifice now forgotten, a new breed of hero seeking power, glory, and dominance, and the secret family she left behind, offering one last chance at redemption. Okay. And then that's up against Superman and Lois Ignition. Our solar system is a machine, and its purpose is to trap and kill Superman. The sun is darkening, Mars' orbit is changing, and a mysterious citadel in Jupiter's great red eye has awoken. It is time for Kal-El to stand against at the very end of his world. But he won't be doing it alone. Lois Lane is suited up, and blasting off to get the biggest story in human history, and to watch Clark's back as he faces his greatest challenge yet. Facing ancient aliens and planet-sized machines, trickster asteroids, and Giga Krakens of Neptune. I had to just process what that was saying there. Superman and Lois will fight across all 9 planets to prevent all 9. Have we rolled Pluto back in the list here?
Apparently.
Yeah. To prevent Earth's dark destiny and save our future. This sounds like a Superman story. I think what sticks out to me about that is that it is just a Superman story. When notably, unless you want to count Robins, there's no Batman in any of these brackets, and I wonder if that's just because they know Batman will win. Like every single time, Batman will win all the votes. So, I mean, I think out of this, I'll go with Superman and Lois because it's kind of just more of a safe bet. But it's not that the description's that exciting to me. It's just nothing about the Amazon one strikes me as particularly exciting either. So, Superman.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go with the Amazon one just because, I mean, the Superman one sounds like a perfectly fine Superman story, right? But the other one, it just sounds a bit more interesting by definition of just being a bit different.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the ones that I actually kind of like the sound of, that I hope kind of make it to the end, just looking through the whole list, I would say it really comes down to Robin's The Swamp Thing book. Yeah, I mean, and to a lesser extent, the Ambush Bug one and Blue Beetle. And yeah, maybe Green Lantern's that push too. But like, I have to admit, it's not. I mean, part of the feeling that these aren't like the big obvious books they're going to put out because they just greenlight them. They don't put them out for a vote. Is that for the most part, these don't feel like stuff that are like super high profile. It feels like mostly a lot of lower tier ideas or lower tier. I mean, not that some of these can't be amazing and shouldn't be amazing, but just that in terms of popularity, in terms of like where they'll place on like the advertising budget.
Yeah, example. I mean, I think I'm interested in more of them than you overall because I'm quite interested in Zatanna for sure. Robin's, Paws Off the Justice League, Blue Beetle. I would personally quite like both Swamp Thing and Suicide Squad 7. So that's like 6 right there.
Sure. What would you guess?
The DC poll, the Twitter poll on the last one. Asteria, The Last Amazon is at 52%.
So close.
Yeah.
Close.
I'm actually just looking on the DC Universe page about it. They put up basically a blog post. And it seems to me that the Twitter poll is a pretty clear point of how to vote. So, they basically said there are going to be DC Instagram stories with 3 matchups a day. So you can vote there. And you can vote on the Twitter poll all at once. And they also said you can just comment in this particular thread that they have on DC Universe Infinite. And they'll count those as well, which it's starting to feel like they're just going to look at general impressions rather than count it specifically.
Yeah, because that's a lot of different formats of voting to combine into one coherent number. But, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Especially since you could theoretically vote on all 3 platforms if you wanted to.
You could. I'm sure some people have.
Okay. I don't know. What I have realized though, I did enjoy picking between things going down that list. So
you like interaction more than you realized.
No, not interact. I don't like this from a perspective of doing it for DC. I'm saying I liked it as part of this show. So what I'm saying is I'm having ideas for other content based on picking things.
Not for this show specifically, right?
Not for this show specifically, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe in a quiet week we'll do a. This is that. I'll come up with a
quiet week.
They exist, I'm sure. That'll happen again.
Right now, really.
I mean, theoretically, right now should be a bunch of quiet weeks because of the number of books, but somehow we're going 20, 30 minutes in almost every book right now, and I don't know how that's happening. Which, to credit, it might mean they're more interesting than they were before, and if that's the case, I can't really fault DC in that sense.
It's possible. There's also a thing, though, that often with a lot of books, even the books that we like, you tend to have less to say as it goes on in a run, because, all right, we've spoke about these things over and over. You kind of develop a shorthand. Things don't need to be said every time. Everything's kind of fresh right now, so everything's a bit longer.
Yep. So there you go. That is the 16 potential books. Only one, at least is that's what they're saying, only one will actually happen, but we'll see. As for what I think will win, I mean, probably, I've already closed the list admittedly, but the ones we said were obviously going to win their brackets, it's probably going to be one of those ones that win at the end.
Yeah, that kind of brings it down to, I mean, that actually limits it a lot. Like the obvious ones, we had Green Lanterns,
Robins.
Well,
Robins might not actually because of the but
I think if Robins gets past JLQ,
he'll have an easy time past that, but it's only just because that.
If JLQ gets past this first round, it might go all the way.
It might, yeah.
Not that I'd be upset about that. It might be a good book.
No, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think
just as long as it's not Steve Orlando writing it.
That's one of those things where they probably should have just put it out, regardless.
That one in
voting.
particular feels like a little bit weird to include.
Yeah, I think the downside to putting it in the vote as well, apart from having to put it through the vote to get it to happen, is that a lot of the gremlins online, are going to, I mean, they'll talk shit about it anyway. Admittedly, right? They'll say whatever they want, but I think it going through a tournament style thing where they'll start to feel like these people are dominating votes.
If this book objectively exists at the expense of all these other books that they cared about, they will hate it so much more. Because we've always said, time and time again, they're not putting out this book instead of the ones you want. Whereas this time they would be.
Which honestly, on that point, does kind of make me want it to win.
Yeah.
Because, well,
Because screw them.
Yeah, fuck them. Yeah, basically. So I hope JLQ wins for that reason. But in terms of taste, there was like 3 or 4 books that were a bit more up my alley. So
yeah,
there you go.